I'm Margarita Shapiro, and I have a son who's affiliated with Vector. He's been doing sales and actually project manager for the last 2 years. He's 21, almost 22, and I'm a registered nurse working in home care, and one of my hobbies is cooking. So I do a lot of cooking, which sort of plays into having a son who's affiliated with Vector and Cutco. I had actually had an experience with a friend's daughter who was selling Cutco the year before. And then when my son came home in college and said he was thinking about joining Vector, my first thought was, wow, I'm going to get some great knives. My second thought was, are you sure you really want to do this? I know my son well enough to know that he wasn't then very good at the phone. He certainly wasn't good at calling people and initiating any sort of contact. Very, very reticent, quiet young man. And my first thought was, I don't think this is going to be the right thing for you. I was really surprised. It turned out as well as it did. It's been great. This was a high school kid who would not pick up the phone to call and order pizza, or call to make an appointment. He would have his sister make the phone calls for him in high school. And I said, oh, how are you going to call people and follow through? And within a couple months, I overheard him in the family room talking on the phone, and I was blown away. I said, when he got off the phone, I said, who are you talking to? Because he was so animated and he was so excited. And what I saw develop over about 6 months with Vector was a real confidence and ability to pick up the phone and call and really kind of slide into someone's life, and like really make an impression with them. So the most important thing that I have seen it give my son was self-confidence and an ability to put himself front and center and say, I know what I'm doing, I'm good at it, and I really love it, and you're going to love it too. I think developmentally he probably would have reached that point eventually, but I think that the way Vector is set up, and I know this personally from meeting all of the men and women that started with him and those that mentored David, I know that I think it had a lot to do with the way they push them, the way they coach them. He gravitated to Vector and the whole team. He sort of approached it from the mindset of a sort of an athletic event, a sporting team. They all pull together, they give you feedback, they tell you what you've done, and I think that it was very much Vector's approach and their support and the way they, at the end of every visit, somebody calls or the kids call in, and they are given so many opportunities to talk to somebody, replay it, how did it go, how would you have done it differently, and I think that that was really critical, that kind of support and feedback, because they don't approach it really as a product. It's not so much that they're selling the product, which is the end result, but what's impressed me is that they approach it from, how do we develop these kids? And I guess as a parent who was very skeptical in the beginning, that is really what kind of really convinced me that this was a good thing for my son, because they were really looking at how can we help him develop. And it worked. It really worked great. Actually, within the year, that district manager asked me to speak at the next parent meeting. So it was kind of cool because it sort of came full circle. I'd had a year now of watching David grow and do sales, and not always successful. I mean, sometimes coming home bummed out that it didn't go well, and he took it in stride. And I listened to the people in the office supporting him, giving him feedback. And a year later, I was the parent up there giving the talk, saying to the new parents, this is a good thing. I mean, what can be bad about an organization that teaches your kids responsibility, accountability, self-confidence, set your goal and go for it. I mean, I was really impressed with the interpersonal relationships that the young men and women have together. And one thing that David has always said to me, if I've ever brought up, are you sort of tired of this? You're a little tired of Vector now? It's going on almost 3 years. And he always says to me, Mom, when I go to work and I love it. Now, how many people can go to work every day and work with their best friends and really spend the whole day having fun and saying, I really like being there? With Vector, he had to, and he chose to, and he did it really admirably well, to follow through with the sales. He was able to, he learned how to run a show so that he independently put together and ran a big home show up in Springfield, Massachusetts. Well, he had to do all of the buying, the purchasing, he had to do the crunch the numbers, he had to staff it, he had to make sure he had enough people to staff it. I mean, he learned real life skills in terms, things that will take him well into the future, in terms of sales, in terms of shows. He had his own office. They gave him an opportunity to have his own office this past summer. And he had to hire the people, he had to train them, he had to recruit them, and he had to keep up with all of his sales representatives and make sure that they were doing their sales reports right. And I think that he gained an incredible life skill with time management, something that he failed to master in college, unfortunately. He certainly didn't master it at home. I wish he had. The other benefits of Vector are the fun things. I mean, he's been on training trips to California, to Las Vegas, paid for by the company. He's been to trips up to upstate Connecticut, to a couple of the clubs up there, and he's won a cruise. He's going on a cruise this spring that he won. So there's a lot of motivational factors that Vector has sort of built in that are a clear benefit to me. I mean, who wouldn't love to work for a company when you can win a free trip to Vegas with your friends? If you know your child, and you know that, and you want something positive for them, and you really want to allow your child an opportunity to grow, that you trust them, that you trust your child to make the right decision with some guidance, and that you go out and meet the people at Vector. Go out and meet the district manager. Go out and meet the pilot, the office managers, and talk to them. And not only did I found out things about my son and the way he is with other people that as a mother at home you don't get to see. I watched him engaging. He got up and spoke in front of an audience of like 400 and gave a talk about his telephone conversation skills. This is a kid who in high school wouldn't get on the phone. And I found this out by going and talking to some of the Vector, the other reps, and the people higher up in the company. So my advice really would be to, I don't see what you can lose. I don't see that there can be really anything, that there's nothing to lose by letting your child work for Vector. And in fact, I think for most kids, there's everything to be gained.